Welcome to the Westborough Affordable Housing Trust meeting of Thursday, April 11, 2024. It's 9 a.m. and we're in Memorial Hall in Town Hall at 34 West Main Street in Westborough. I'm calling the meeting to order, and we have a number of items on today's agenda, a lot of them being motions to move forward on some both articles and other activities that we need to be doing. We don't have the minutes for the March 14th, so we're going to skip that. We'll do that next month. But project updates, 3 Baylor Avenue. We have closed on 3 Baylor Avenue, I think, as you knew, last meeting, yeah. I've been in touch with the developer, Mark O'Regan, and I've shut down power, or at least put in a power disconnect. Since it's going to be a demo, they're going to do a pullback to the pole. So, you know, just that's the last thing that we need to do as far as that. We told Mark, and he's very agreeable to it, that we'd like to have some kind of event, photo op, when we're ready either to bring in the bulldozers or what. And maybe we'll have golden sledgehammers instead of golden shovels to do the groundbreaking.
Who's our select board chair these days?
Excuse me?
We ought to line up our select board chair and the town manager and.
Once we.
Planning director and.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly, get the
Yeah,
whole crew
well,
in, yes.
once we get detail on when he might be available, then we'll try to round up as many troops as we can, because I think it'll be you know.
At least get the community advocate to cover it, I doubt you.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Might get the Worcester Telegram, you never can tell. I think they still publish, but.
No, they do.
Online, maybe?
Okay, any questions on 3 Baylor? I mean, it's out of our hands, in a way. Obviously, we will be monitoring to ensure that the timelines and everything are being met, and you know, we'll still be doing the final subsidy payment, et cetera. But any other questions? No. Okay. Moving on. Housing production plan. Steve isn't here, but Jenny. I spoke with Jenny, I don't know, last week or so, and AHB is in the project, doing things. They were going to do a drive around, what they call, I think, a windshield test or something. So we're not going to probably see that until probably June or July, and then we'll have that report in hand, and we can review that either at this meeting or at December. We'll get it around to everybody so they can do it. But really, Jenny's driving that, Jennifer, our planning director, Gingras. All right, the emergency rental assistance program. Kate, want to talk about that?
Basically, whatever is in the packet is
Yep.
what you should
Right.
be aware of.
Yep.
So, so we only received 4 bids were out, or 4 bids were
We're solicited.
solicited. I was like, how do you put that? But only 1 came back, and so there was a typo in the solicitation, so we are going to rebid it. But basically, we're looking for authorizing Mr. Bain, our chair here, to negotiate and execute a contract with Metro West Community Development for this program if no other bids are received.
Okay. Yeah, there is actually a motion. No, that's trying to see if we trying to find the motion. It's in the.
Let's see if I can.
Is it in there?
Oh, I think it
Proposed
was.
motion, move that having received confirmation, no additional bids are expected to award bid for administration of the Westborough DPA program to Metro West Collaborative Development, and authorize the chair with assistance of trustees as needed and council to negotiate and execute a contract with Metro West Collaborative Development on behalf of the trust for administration of the Westborough DPA program, reflecting the scope of work and of a form consistent with similar contracts.
Okay, thank you,
That's
Seth.
Alan's motion, yeah.
Right, I
Fantastic.
had it separately, but that's good. Second, Kate?
Second.
Discussions, I mean, we just want to keep moving this along is the reason for, this motion.
Yeah, I'm certainly in favor of the motion, just want, is DPA gonna do the marketing, or do we need to get out there and notify people to start doing some marketing?
My understanding is we will do the marketing.
Okay.
Okay, that, and that we will need to do, once we have everything in place, what I expect, and Kate, please join in, but we would do, obviously, a press release, get a story or an article in, the Community Advocate.
Maybe,
And start, I would think that where we would want to do is we do have that trifold pamphlet, get that up to date, and get some of that around to realtors, or send out letters directly to realtors to let them know of this, so that,
I just want to clarify, because on the agenda, so I just
Yeah.
want to make sure that we're understanding what we're actually talking about here. So there's project updates, the Emergency Rental Assistance Program, and then Project Homeborough. So we're actually talking about Project Homeborough right now. We're not talking about the Emergency Rental Assistance
oh,
Program.
I'm sorry, yeah.
yeah, that's, okay.
Project Home Borrows, yeah,
No,
so-
that's Homeborough that you just did.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the emergency rental assistance,
We're still waiting
we're
to
still
hear.
waiting from TD.
Right, yeah, so we applied for a grant through TD Bank, and we haven't heard yet. So that's the status update of that. So
Right.
what
We
we're
can-
really talking about is Project Homeborough, which we've all worked on,
Sure.
we've
Yes.
approved, we've got a really good handle on. We just need somebody to administer it, and so that's what we're working on now.
Right.
I just wanted to, it was like.
Yeah, I was sort of
Yeah, no,
looking at,
I'm sorry,
Hank, you're always ahead of your time. So anyhow, yeah, the emergency rental assistance program is, and there's a separate motion for that, or as we call it, the down payment assistance program.
No, that is, so.
down
there-
payment, yeah, this is the,
Well, that's the
Well,
TD, the
the
home borough.
There-
You're right, you're
Yeah,
right.
Project
Yeah.
Home Borrow.
Yeah.
And I have a separate motion for that.
And we
What-
made
which
the
is
motion
what-
for that.
Yeah, which is what Hank already did.
I
Right.
just
You
went out of
made the
order on the
motion for
agenda,
that.
made the
Let's
motion.
continue on.
We can continue on.
With-
I mean,
with
to me,
that.
the only, that's great, we ought to do it, and I'm just gonna suggest everybody maybe ought to filter to you suggestions on who to market it to, who to
Yes.
send emails to, whatever, the select board, the Worcester Board of Realtors, the, I don't know, there's gotta be somebody, UHLC, that
I
would
think there
be
was-
useful.
Wasn't there a whole list of agencies in town that we wanted to connect with regard to this? Wasn't that part of our application for the,
Yeah, I mean, if you
The
make a
rental
press
assistance
release, you
portion,
can get it
yes.
published on Westborough Connects or
Yeah.
something, I don't know.
Correct, yeah.
Yeah.
So the
So
marketing is gonna be making sure that people are aware of the program.
All the
Once-
banks, I mean, if we
Yeah,
can,
I was gonna say, the
banks-
banks are really the people that you'd want to know about this, right? Because,
yep, I mean, bank lending officers,
Right.
but realtors and bank lending officers are probably the key,
Mhm.
but again, you wanna try and get to people who wouldn't otherwise even think about buying a house in Westborough.
right,
So they
Correct.
probably haven't contacted a realtor who does business here.
Right.
Oh, by the way, you can't just talk to Westborough realtors, cause a lot of the.
Oh, yeah, a lot of
A lot of
cross
the
reference.
property in Westborough is sold by Northborough, Upton, around, eastern Worcester County Realtors.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
there is a Worcester County Realtors Association, they got a website.
Right.
They
Oh,
got-
okay.
yeah,
I'm sure we
you know,
can,
if
through
we send
our
it to their-
contacts here,
right.
we can find the best place
Well, I
to.
just, everybody feeds to you who we ought to market it to,
Okay,
because amongst us, we'll know.
all right, given that we have a motion, it's been seconded, any other discussion, more discussion, otherwise I'll take a vote. All those in favor of the
Aye.
motion on the table? All right, good, thank you. I think moving on to High Street.
well, and as
Yeah.
always, Ed, anything I can do to help pull together the contract, just let me know.
Sure.
Like,
Oh.
I'm not obviously the person who will be drafting it, basically, but I'd like to get up to speed on this, because that's a layer of expertise that'd be helpful for
Sure,
us to
oh,
have.
absolutely.
Yes.
Oh, I got your name already down on
All
the
right.
list. So we talked about Homeborough, the 45 High Street extension. What we need to do on that, fortunately, we were very successful at the town meeting. We had 2 articles and one, if you will, response amendment to one article, and all 3 passed. So it indicates the town's support for the work we're doing, which is good. And they passed by high, percentages. So on the 45 High Street extension, what we need to do is really make a request to the select board to do the transfer of the property to us. And on page, and they're not, it's on the
I see it.
45 High Street extension, there's a proposed motion. Given that Hank was the one who discovered the property originally and brought it to our attention, I would ask that he do that. Do you want the?
Sure, I got it right here.
Got it right there.
A move that the chair representing and authorized by the trustees request the select board, that's the Westborough Select Board, transfer the property at 45 High Street Extension, identified as parcel 27-171-0, and described in a deed recorded with Worcester Registry of Deeds in Book 3171, page 93, to the Westborough Affordable Housing Trust, the trust, for low and moderate income housing purposes, inclusive of affordable housing units, on the following terms. Select Board will transfer the property at no cost to the trust. Select Board may vote to reclaim the property at no cost to the trust if either, A, the trust fails to obtain the necessary permits, approvals, and funding for the project within 2 years, or any extended period subsequently authorized by the Select Board. Town identifies a preferred municipal use for, if the town identifies a preferred municipal use for the property prior to either A, the town obtaining the necessary permit, the trust obtaining the necessary permits, approvals, and funding for the project, or B, the trust conveying the property to another, that's gotta be another party, not part, for the purpose of developing low and moderate income housing. So we do need to edit that to where it says, conveying the property to another part, it's to another party.
To another party. Got it.
With, number 3, with the approval from the select board, which shall not be unreasonably withheld, the trust may convey the property to a nonprofit or for-profit developer or redevelopment corporation of this, for the sole purpose of creating low and moderate income housing, inclusive of affordable housing units, which shall be stipulated in a properly executed land development agreement or similar document. 4, the trust may not convey the property to any party for any purpose other than the development of low and moderate income housing, inclusive of affordable housing units. The trust will pay all legal and filing fees required to transfer the property to or from the trust, including any fees that would normally be incurred by the trust.
Okay. Yeah, I think that is basically what we had presented at town meeting.
Yeah, it's a motion and a half, yeah.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Yeah, so this is, I will, draft a letter or email to the select board, to send it via the town manager to this effect with that one change from part to party.
So, my understanding is we're gonna take title to the property and record the title, so we will be the proud owner of the property.
Correct.
Does that cause us to incur any liabilities or expenses?
Yes. The liability would be, we would, just like we've had liability insurance on both 6 Beach and 3 Baylor for liability, meaning somebody comes in, they get hurt because they trip over something that we should have known about.
Somebody
What
goes
we would do
The
is
oil
I
leaks.
will contact our insurer. We're gonna take
Yeah.
Baylor off,
Right.
put,
so prior
and
to-
see if I can just flip these, because and put,
So prior to the closing, you would do that?
yes,
And-
once they have approved it, and before we do the actual title transfer,
Again, do
I'll make sure that's all queued up.
we have any responsibility for in any way, shape, or form securing or maintaining the property beyond what's, and again,
There's nothing on the property, right?
There's-
it's a vacant lot, but
it's a-
there's lots of vegetation.
Yep.
There is a road that goes in front of it. I don't think there's a sidewalk.
No, I don't believe so, but,
Uh, But again, I mean, Westborough doesn't have a sidewalk clearing ordinance, I don't believe. And, you know, the vegetation, I would be surprised.
We don't have to rake the leaves or anything.
I would be surprised if the DPW has been doing anything to maintain, you know, to keep the
Right.
vegetation from encroaching on our street.
Right,
Other
it's
than what
been
they-
75 years sitting there, and
Yes.
as far as
Oh,
we
yeah,
know,
no.
nothing's been done to that
Just want to be
property.
sure that we don't end up with some strange
Liability,
liability.
yeah.
I mean, it could happen, I suppose, someone could fall or something, you know,
Yeah, I mean,
but you're talking about the
liability
maintenance
insurance
and,
sort of makes a lot of
yes.
sense, right? Yeah.
Right.
And just to go back to something you mentioned, Ed, the liability insurance for 3 Baylor, do we have, we continue to have some interest in that property because of the deed restriction, right? Like, we would have to sort of be involved, approve future sales. We have some interest based on that, don't we?
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
We should
that's-
get a lawyer
yes.
to determine that.
Yes. Do we need to, I wouldn't expect that we need to continue
Could
any sort of
you-
insurance,
Could you
but
investigate that?
I wouldn't even know where to
I
begin.
mean, we do have a liability as stipulated in the transfer of the property
Mm.
for paying for any environmental cleanup. But
Right,
That
that's
liability,
separate.
we had that
Well,
liability before we sold it.
Mhm.
We were not able to extinguish that liability when we sold it for whatever reason, but we did do due diligence and made sure that we're pretty sure there's no contamination left behind.
And we've escrowed it.
We have a right of we will
Mhm.
end up with a right of first, this isn't the proper legal term, but we'll end up with a right of first
Right.
refusal through the deed rider.
That's it. I wonder if the deed writer
Uh,
somehow connects us to it such that we could be on the
Well,
hook.
This is what I
Yes.
suggest we do,
Yes.
just to give you some work. I will send an email
Mm-hmm.
to Sharon Everett, who's our town council,
Okay.
all right, who's been intimately involved in this. Copy you, introduce you,
Sure.
and saying, question came up of, now that we've transferred 3 Baylor, but under stipulations that she is more
Right.
than aware of.
Okay, yes. 'Cause she actually drafted the
She
documents,
did the
I
PNS and
understand.
all the
Yes,
NDAs
perfect.
and
Very knowledgeable.
all the other company
Mm-hmm.
documents, and ask her that question, and ask her then for you and her to discuss it,
Yes,
and then inform me.
yes,
You
that,
may
that sounds good.
You may
Yeah,
also
good
want to read the
know.
LDA, the land
Yeah.
development agreement, which I think is in our file somewhere.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it is,
we
or I
read-
can
yeah, we
send a
had- It was
copy.
part of the
The-
packet
'cause
last
the-
time, yes.
Okay, let me,
I don't, again, we transferred the property to a developer.
Yes.
I don't know if the deed, I don't think the deed that the developer has contains the,
It has a deed restriction, but does it
the
link back
deed
to us?
restriction.
Mm.
it contains, it does require that a deed restriction be put on the property when he sells it.
sells
But
it.
I think that's by way of the LDA. I think what the. I think-
Correct.
Right,
So-
so so it
And-
maybe, do we have some kind of contractual?
Yeah, so
Liability.
that when on the next sale, the actual, you
Mm-hmm.
may want to take a look at the deed rider. I think the deed rider may be in the LDA. If it isn't, you can talk to Sharon.
I'm almost positive it's in the LDA,
Yeah.
because I was looking for it in the
Right.
PNS, and I
Yes,
realized,
yes.
no,
No, no,
it's the
Yeah,
land
I was
development
trying to,
agreement.
yeah. I was
But
trying to put
I'm not
those
positive
pieces
that the text of
Right.
the deed rider is in the LDA. If it
Sure.
isn't, Sharon can tell you where to find the text.
Sure,
together.
yeah.
I feel like,
'Cause
yeah, I feel like there was
I think
something
you'd
like
feel better
that.
if you read the deed rider, you'd be in a position to say, okay, this is what this says, here's what it probably means.
I feel like it was in the other, that was
Yeah.
part of the packet last time,
Oh, yeah,
right?
it was.
Yeah.
Correct, yes.
Mhm.
Well,
Yeah,
and
there
if
was
it's
language in
like-
there.
These documents become,
It's like one document
Burdensome.
references another, references
Yeah,
another,
yeah.
references another. It's this unfolding banquet of documents.
until you've been through a few of them, they're,
Yes.
at least for me, very confusing.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, well, it'll be a good chance for me to learn as well some of the ins and outs of this.
Yeah, well,
how
it's a
these
good
work.
start, and,
Yes,
you know,
exactly.
I think,
you can do, since you're both attorneys.
I think
Hopefully
that'll move
HLC
things
also
along.
has Mass Housing Partnership, I
Mhm.
think they have the standard deed rider somewhere on their website.
They have a lot of good stuff, yes.
But
yes.
again, the one they have is a standard one, the
Mhm.
LDA should specify a specific one, I assume.
Okay. I'm sorry,
Okay,
did we
yep.
take a final vote on the,
We didn't vote on, we're just talking about.
right, we're talking
We have
about it,
no
okay.
liability.
Other discussion on
There's
it.
no
Uh,
issues, we understand we need to put insurance.
Right.
and-
I do have, so what's the next steps in terms of the timeline? So when will this go to the when will the select board approve the transfer, do we know, or is that?
No, this is, we're talking about,
Oh, sorry.
You're authorizing Ed to go to the board and ask them to make the transfer.
make the
Yes.
transfer of 45 high.
Yes,
Right.
exactly,
Right,
back to
we're
45
sorta-
high, I'm back on
Yeah,
45
then-
high, but
then-
that's my
then-
question, what,
Yeah.
At one of their meetings, they'll take it up and
Okay.
they'll approve it.
yes,
But then it goes to the town attorney
mm-hmm,
that does not proceed in the speediest fashion known to man.
well, and, okay, so then, all right, so we don't have a sense of the timeline, we'll put it up there and at some meeting.
At
to
some
be
meeting, they will
determined.
do the vote.
And then it'll go to the attorney who then at some point will administer the documents.
Correct.
And we could probably make that easier for her, right?
Yep.
There are probably ways we can make that,
Well,
Yeah, maybe.
yeah, we defer to town
Mhm.
council
Sure,
to do
sure.
whatever.
I mean, you're
And-
looking
and
at
then-
probably 120 days.
Okay.
Closing is probably 120 days out, plus or minus, a month.
and
That's
then,
typically the time.
and then once we have that access, we can go in there and start to evaluate, maybe
Well,
do
we-
soil sampling or whatever we need to do to make sure that the property
we can-
is
No, we've done
useful.
that.
We've already,
Well,
okay,
We have we have authority from the select board to go in there today,
Sure.
tomorrow, whatever, to do things of that sort. But we have to decide what we want to do. We have not had the conversation.
right,
But once we become, once
Sure.
we catch this semi-trailer,
Mhm.
what are we gonna do with it?
yes, exactly.
That conversation we need to have.
Okay, so once it's in hand, then we can start looking at it ourselves, perhaps talking
Right.
to developers and
Well,
so
we
forth,
probably
which
ought
is
to
just too
start
preliminary.
Either this
Yeah.
meeting or next meeting, start the conversation. What do
Right.
we want to do next?
Yes,
Exactly.
okay.
Until we have it transferred, I think, while we can be thinking about it, because there's probably some more testing that we want to do to ensure that it's a viable development,
Sure,
plot.
98% plus probability that we're gonna end up owning the property in 120 days, so.
right.
Yep.
So we might as well start
Might as
moving
well
in that
start
direction,
moving.
yes,
Yep,
exactly.
yep, okay. All right, so we have the motion for the 45 High Street. And any other discussion or questions? Okay. All those in favor of my sending the request to the select board? Okay, thank you. So we voted for 0 for present. Okay. We sort of went back and forth a little bit on the 3 Baylor Avenue, so we're really gonna probably, there's nothing yet that town council needs to do with the 45 High Street extension until we get it in our hands. But I will move on getting liability
Yeah, I mean,
process.
yeah.
I'll just say, we expect this to happen within the next 60, 90
I
days.
mean, generally, you trigger it at closing.
Yeah, and that's what we've done in the past with, like, Beach Street. I just added it on to the policy. Okay, so we have 45 High. Moving on to 6 Beach Street. Now, on 6 Beach, it's actually both 6 Beach and 45. What we did is, one of the articles at town meeting was to do a home rule petition that would provide us some relief as far as the bidding process on that. So there's a proposed motion in your packet on the home rule petition that I will obtain. Somebody would like to make a motion?
I would love to make the motion. I gotta scroll back down. I had lost my place.
There you go, if you need it.
All right. I move that the chair, representing and authorized by the trustees, request that the select board to submit the home rule petition as approved on March 23rd, 2024 by town meeting as Article 27 on the annual town meeting warrant.
Second.
Second. Okay, any discussion on that? That's basically just telling them, please follow up.
Just another detail, but who actually writes the home rule petition?
I think town council might. I don't know. This is the first time I've been, on a board that
It's-
has proposed a home rule petition. but-
My understanding that our legislators bring it to the floor.
Right.
But
So
they're
we
not
have to
gonna-
tell,
they're
so the
not gonna
select
write it.
board
Yes,
needs to
they-
notify our legislators.
Correct.
Well, I'm guessing that the legislator's gonna say, that's a great idea. Show me the
Right.
paper.
Yes.
Give me a piece of
Right.
paper that, I mean, they're gonna ask our.
Yeah, they're gonna ask for the details, which was in the article, and the presentation, et cetera.
Yeah.
But I'll work with the, basically what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna say, we have moved to request that that you proceed with the home rule petition per Article 27 on this year's annual town meeting warrant. Please advise as to what actions need to be taken going forward.
Yeah, that's a
And
good,
I might stop after meeting, I'll see
Yeah.
if Christie's in, or Sheila might even know, and get a little heads up.
yeah, that's a really good point Kate raises, because I think we've got good models for this, if I understood Alan correctly, because
Yeah.
other towns have done it, but still someone has to put the papers together. and if
Exactly.
We need to help with
Yeah,
that,
I
or we
think-
can help with that. of
Hank,
course,
you're the
we're
one who
happy
found
to
out
do
about
that.
this, or you and I found out about
Yes.
this through Acton, right? Like, we found out about the home
Yeah.
rule
I know
petition.
Acton did it.
But Alan is our select board liaison here too, so I just feel like, for the record, let the record show that Alan will follow up on this.
Yeah.
Well, he'll be copied on it, yes. Okay.
I mean.
And we're happy to help support, draft, review,
I mean,
whatever we can
encourage,
do.
I
Okay.
can encourage Alan, that's
Yes,
great, yeah.
exactly.
Should we offer to pay any legal fees required to create the petition? Or is that a discussion you should have and then come back, and if we need. to pay
Yeah,
legal fees,
why don't we
can?
do that, because I doubt it's gonna, yeah, that would probably be attorney fees.
At least some kind of
Primarily.
draft or something.
Again, I-
That's fair, I
Yeah.
think that's a good question.
It's a
Yeah,
good question,
I
but
just don't know.
let me ask that as
Yeah, and
well.
if you need authorization, we can take care of it next month, because
Yeah.
this is not gonna.
Not gonna happen.
Not gonna happen real fast, so.
Sure.
Yeah, we're trying to get ahead of the game on
Who's
this.
gonna do it? And, yeah, I mean, Alan will follow up, and no problem, I'd love that.
Yeah.
I have no need to deal with legislators. I don't mind voting for him, but other than that, I'd prefer not to.
Yeah.
We'll let Alan have all the fun.
Well, yeah. So anyhow, there's a motion on the floor to authorize myself to, forward on behalf of the trustees a request to proceed with the home rule petition. Any other discussion? If not, I'll take a vote. All those in favor? Okay, we'll get 4-0. 4 present. Okay. Moving on. Okay. Westborough, WSC, better known as the Westborough Shopping Center. There's a good write-up of what we've been doing. Alan and I have been meeting with have met a number of times a couple of times with the Colangelos, who own that property and are the proposed developers. We've been helping them through some state regs, et cetera, some options, et cetera. There is a one-stop for the state side that we suggested that they coordinate with our planning director, Jenny Gingras. What it really comes down to, a key point is, given the number of units that they are proposing, they would require 20 units to be affordable and, proportionate to size and location. So you have to do, 20% of the studio, 20% of the one bedrooms, 20% of the two bedrooms. When we did a little bit more of the math, one of the benefits is if they go from 20% to 25% affordable, we get credit for all 132 proposed units in our subsidized housing inventory, or SHI. So, which obviously, gives us even more headroom over, 40B protection. So, as well as just the more we can do, the better. And we've been talking to them about that. They formally presented the project to the planning board on April 2nd. I attended that meeting and stood and, after the presentation was done, stood up and just told the planning board that we're 100% behind this. We really feel it's appropriate for that, for what they're doing, particularly workforce housing. But it would also be perfect for senior housing as well, and even carving out certain number for, dedicated for senior housing, just because it is so convenient to shopping and transit and things such as that. So, as it shows in your packet, the town had a settlement it was with the Highlands for $950,000. As Alan and I have discussed, what we would like to do is to help them get to the 25%, which would require 6 additional units be, set aside as affordable and deed restricted for 55 plus. That 950 was purely, because it was from the Highlands, was purely for senior housing. So it would have to be deed restricted. We can't just say, yeah, we can get 6 more affordable units. So what we would like to do is, proportioning things out, is to negotiate a subsidy of $38,000 per unit for up to 6 units, totaling $228,000, providing that the development include at least 6 SHI units deeded restricted to ages 55 plus and meet other conditions, et cetera. And and then it goes on, we want to vote to support the consideration of subsidies for a to be determined or percentage of units as deed restricted, moderate income housing up to 135% AMI, where they can, attract more workforce housing and meet other conditions. So basically what this is doing is saying, we want to have some authorization to put on the table $228,000 to help in different ways. It could be a loan, it could be a grant, it could, whatever it needs to be, to support the addition of the 6 deed restricted 55 plus units. And there is a second part of the motion, as you can see on the bottom of the page, for the WSC. So we can propose this motion and then discuss.
Yeah, I'm not supporting proposing the motion. There's much too much detail in there and not too many unknowns.
Okay.
I mean, I'd rather discuss and then think about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, the first thing, it seems to me our number one objective is to expand the number of affordable units in the project from 20% to 25%.
Right.
Okay,
Correct, that's
right?
the purpose of
Okay,
this.
so that's the first conversation we ought to have with the developers. What do you need in order to expand to 25%? So that we can achieve SHI compliance for
Right.
100% of the units.
Right.
And when we've had that
Yeah.
conversation, they come back and say, what I need is ABC. We say, okay, we can help you with A, but we can't help you with B or C or whatever.
Right.
I don't know what they need, right?
Yes.
Second thing is, I was under the impression
Yes.
that the OHLC made a ruling in 2018 that if the housing were age restricted below age 62, the unit, that the development, not just the units, the whole development could not count for, or certainly the units could not count against the SHI. Well, that's a ruling that's on, that's.
Okay, I'm
That's
trying to
documented,
follow
right?
you, saying in
That's
2018.
in 2018, that ruling came out, that is the ruling that caused us to negotiate with Pulte.
With Pulte.
Okay.
Okay, and I'm not sure, I haven't read the thing in a couple of years, whether the ruling talks about all of the units in the development do not qualify the SHI, or whether it says that just the units that are restricted, if some of them are restricted, okay?
Age restricted.
Age restricted, under 62, right? So I mean, if you say age restricted, you're probably having to say, you know, subject
62
to
or
review.
50, yeah.
Probably have to say over 62, right?
Well, all right,
I mean,
with
again,
Pulte, just for,
To meet objective one, which is to tie with the SHI.
right. So, just so people are understanding, with Pulte, the issue was, they permitted or were permitted to build a 55-plus age-restricted condos, okay? It subsequently came down from the state that says, if it's only 55-plus as opposed to 62-plus, any of the affordable units that would be carved out, let's say 20% or whatever it was, would have been, you would have to allow in families, which means under 55 could live there. As a result, they couldn't really market the property as a 55-plus community because there's, possibility that families could move
Yes.
in with children. One difference with this, okay, is the entire development is not being age restricted. So that's one difference that might or might not be relevant. So what we're trying to do, and this still needs a bit more research, so we may be a little ahead of the game here, that we need to make sure that if we ask that only a small proportion of the units be age restricted, which is all we're doing with that extra one. And the reason for that is in order to use the
Senior housing.
Highlands money,
Well,
you know.
again, we don't have to use the Highlands money.
We
right?
don't.
Okay.
Okay.
Highlands money, age restricting opens up an opportunity, but if number one objective is 120, is to get 100% of the units counted, then we need to understand, hey, if we have to do that with money other than Highlands money, fantastic,
I think
have no
that-
problem supporting that. We have an opportunity if they can, and if the developer can and is willing to deal with the complexities, excuse me, I'm gonna have to turn that off. If they can, willing to deal with the complexities, then, we could go to the next step. But they're clearly gonna have to go to the EOHLC and get a ruling.
Yes, yes.
So-
And once again, these are sort of moves in a way, and I understand, Hank, and me having been in there, is that this is an evolving process. There's a lot of details that we need to do. A lot of the motions are more framed that we can negotiate. It sort of is more of an authorization than a decision to do it.
Yeah.
Now,
And do we want more of a motion to authorize discussions on the potential for senior housing or other
So,
affordable
I mean,
units?
If you said something like solicit proposals from the developer to offer the community, not us, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to take that. Excuse me, that's my
Okay.
daughter, I have to take it.
okay, yeah,
Yeah.
just ask your well, no, why don't we go into recess, because we're not in quorum.
Ah, gotcha.
Fair.
Oh, I think there's something I can ask about that's not
Sure,
up for discussion.
information is
Yes,
okay.
I understood someone reached out to have someone from the trust investigate the potential of turning some of their units I think on the Rotary.
Right,
Into-
number one
yeah.
south.
Yeah, and they wanted to meet in the next many weeks. Is that
I
kind of
haven't
up in
heard
the air?
anything
Okay.
back. Alan had been in
Yes.
touch with them,
Sure.
so right
So
now
we'll see,
we have
yeah.
nothing. Yeah.
And it's exciting to consider potential
Yeah,
possibilities
no,
out
you're on the
there.
list there, because you threw your hat in the ring.
Probably everyone did, though. I just, it's such a, that's kind of the bread and butter of what we do, right? Is figuring out what are the right sites and
Yep.
how we can support.
Yeah,
them.
that would be different in the sense it would be a renovation, but we shouldn't
Yeah.
discuss too much.
That part, yes, exactly. That's where we get to the part where
Either
maybe the board
encourage,
might
right,
wanna-
we get into trouble when we
Yeah.
start to,
sort of pre-discuss matters that are.
well, not pre-discuss,
Yeah.
but if, with the open meeting law, you do not want to deliberate.
Yes, exactly.
And
It's a fine
deliberation would even be,
Opinions or-
opinions in support of or encouragement of, so
Yes.
that's why I'm.
line. Yes, I hear you.
We okay, Frank?
Yeah,
Okay.
apologize.
No
My
problem.
daughter's trying to open up a house and
Oh.
needed my advice on how to deal with something.
That's what dads are for.
That's what I was gonna say, that's what dads are for. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
All right, so continuing on, as I'm saying, this was, some of this is more the authorization, the motions, the meaning of the motions, is more an authorization to continue discussing. Part of it is to show goodwill, that, yeah,
Right.
we're willing to put some money on the table. Subject to final negotiations.
Yeah.
I mean, I would feel good at this point trying to identify our objectives.
Right.
I mean, our objectives, and there's probably others in the community who also have their objectives, but we have, the Housing Trust has some objectives. And say, hey, we're willing to be we're willing to be a funder along with other funding institutions and other, to help this project to fruition. However, we're looking for proposals from the developer as to how they would like to go about meeting our objectives and what it would take in terms of incentives. And we'd also like to make sure we understand what they've done to acquire funding from other sources that
Right.
are available.
And what are the shortfalls
Before
where we
we-
can help?
Yeah,
Yes.
we-
Okay, just,
We're sort of the funder of last resort, if you will.
Yeah.
Not quite, but
Right.
close to it.
okay. In a way, we have a chicken and an egg
Yep.
issue, which is, they need our help
Yep.
in facilitating meetings and pointing them to the right people, working with the planning department, et cetera, okay? So, they've never done this before. So, part of our role that we took on was to provide guidance, okay? And we'll continue to do that. The proper approach in this process, if we just ask, well, what do you need? And they said, well, what can you give me?
Right.
Or it's back and forth. I don't know if they know what other things may be there. This is a collaborative process, as
Right.
I'm sure
So, yeah, well, I mean,
you understand.
You got an experienced developer in terms of the affordability piece of this thing. I mean, is the town planner on board with us?
Oh, absolutely.
Does the town planner understand our objectives, and does she understand our willingness? I mean, to me, the town planner is probably the point person in helping them connect up with a whole bunch of funding sources and other resources.
Yes, with the one stop. That, we're
And-
working
Well, not just the one
hand in
stop.
hand.
I mean, the town planner.
Not this one stop. There's a one stop for the state.
Yeah, but I mean, the town planner has experience working with
Correct.
developers in many towns and with the state and understands, I mean, she knows a lot, clearly knows a lot more
And
about
we have,
all this stuff.
and we have specifically requested, it was, emails going back and forth, that she be the one to introduce them to the right people in the state one stop.
So again, I mean, I'm comfortable with trying to articulate our objectives, which my sense is, hey, our key objective is we'd like 100% of the units to be affordable, to account for the SHI.
That's one
And
objective.
maybe we have
Number
secondary
one-
objectives, right?
And that's the primary objective.
Right.
If you can't accomplish that, we gotta go back and rethink the whole thing.
Mhm.
Well,
Number two is we would like the number of affordable units to be 25%. And oh, by the way, that.
well, that's the only way we'll get to the 100
Well, but
SHI.
again, that's, if 25% of the units were affordable, but some of them could not count toward the SHI, we'd consider that. That's what we talked about. Hey, if the over 62 doesn't, over 65, if the over 55 6 units that we've discussed don't qualify for the SHI, we'd still be interested in doing a deal. We just would use different money.
Yes.
Because our number one objective is to get the full 100% against the SHI.
Correct.
So number two objective is then to have access, to give us, well, we want to get to the SHI. Do we want some portion of the units to have local preference?
Yes,
So
probably.
we really ought to specify that we would like the maximum number of units have local preference. I think we'd like to specify that the affordable units be proportionally distributed in terms of size. They're not all the one-bedroom units. They're, if there's 50 and 50, then it's 5 and 5 or whatever.
Yeah, understand.
I mean, again, that's the kind of things we ought to be trying to write down and say, here's what we're trying to accomplish. How do we work with you, Mr. Developer, to accomplish this?
Right.
And then maybe a later
Oh, yeah. I mean,
priority could be workworce housing, which may not strictly meet the requirements of some of these other things, but if there's a way to build it in.
That's their goal,
Right,
is
yes.
to,
Maybe
make
more
it
affordable.
I mean,
Yes.
by limiting the size and distribution, so that these are not large
Right,
units. And also the fact that the location and, you
So
don't have a bunch of
accessible.
green space around. So for kids to play, this is similar in some ways to 25 West Main, which is the building, the second building coming up from the Rotary. It's all the parking in the back. It's going to be a parking garage underneath,
Great
things
for
like
adults,
that. It's not
yeah.
conducive to at least school-age children. For toddlers, where you're going to always be with them. So they're, they're very sensitive to trying to develop a young professional market.
yes.
Workforce housing.
Yes.
And also, it would address people who they're not needing to be affordable. In other words, it's seniors
The
who have the
80%,
money,
yes.
but would like to downsize, but have the convenience of all the stores, they're downtown, a lot of benefits.
I was thinking as well of the second part of the proposed motion, which is maybe there's some units that wouldn't technically count towards SHI. The income requirements aren't quite strict enough, but maybe we want to look at making some more affordable under other measures as well, right? So that, I would say, is not our primary objective and probably not our second objective, but maybe third or fourth, something to consider per the second part of the motion that was included.
I mean, I think we're saying that we are willing to consider subsidizing
Right.
some amount of workforce housing, as long as objective 1 and 2 and, some of these
Right.
higher level objectives are met.
Objective
So-
one
so
is
again-
having the whole
again,
unit count somehow.
We're now a funder, and we're negotiating we're trying to say, hey, there's a bunch of different things we'd like
Right.
to accomplish. How much we're willing or able to fund depends on which of these things we can accomplish, but we can't, I mean, and if you have any doubts about our ability to fund, we'll show you our balance sheet, which has all this money on it. And oh, by the way, we have these commitments. We have known sources of future funding over the next couple of years that are guaranteed. So we're going to have money. You don't have to worry about, and we're going to have money that's big enough to cover anything you want. But before we talk about how much money we're willing to give you, we
Or
want
how
to
much
see your
plan-
financing
yeah.
plans. We want to see your development plans.
Well-
And we want to know that, because they can't get very far without financing plans.
Oh,
We're
no,
gonna-
they
We're going to
need,
help them we're going to go give them advice as consultants on where to go to look for financing, but we're not going to go get the financing for them.
no, but in a way, this is a chicken and an egg. We're
Right.
trying to say, let me finish. Part of their financing, which will then drive their ability to make it financially feasible to do 6 additional units, which is what we're really, that's sort of the metric that we're trying to hit. this needs to be almost a collaborative back and forth. Yes, asking them, looking at that, having them say, well, this is where we are. Does that make sense? Even if it's just not financing, but a financial model, if you will, or financial assumptions.
Another question. Are they going for a comprehensive permit, or are they going?
Yes,
are
I
they-
believe,
So
well, they are.
Are they gonna file it?
Let me just answer.
Yeah.
You asked a question. I don't know if they need a comprehensive permit. They are in business, highway business, which allows for multi-unit development, multifamily development. So I don't know if they have by right the ability to build. I don't know. But I'm
Right.
saying, so I don't know whether it's gonna need to be a comprehensive permit because of the amount of green space. I mean,
my understand, I was under the impression, I don't,
Yes.
it's not factual, it's an impression I got from looking at the filing they did with the original filing with the planning board, that they were just gonna ask for, they were gonna go to the zoning board of appeals and ask for variances. They were not gonna go, they were not gonna go after a comprehensive permit,
Right.
or didn't need to, or whatever. But still, if any of this stuff is gonna get on the SHI, they've gotta file at least an LIP
yes,
with EOHLC. When you file an LIP with EOHLC, you have to give complete financial details on construction costs, and you have to give complete financial details on sources of funding. I would expect I would expect the name of the town of Westborough, whether it's the
trust.
Westborough Housing Trust or whether it's some other entity, that name would show up on their list of sources of funding.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not sure how much, and I'd like to see the rest of it
Right.
to understand that they really have gone after all sources before we give them subsidies. They probably will need them, but
Yeah.
I'd like to have a little more detail
Okay.
and a little more
Yes.
little more certainty that that we're gonna get the 100% of the units against the SHI.
Okay.
Yeah, that was
Right.
one of the
What-
the considerations I had as well as I looked at this. I thought if we're offering up front 38,000 per unit for
Mhm.
6 units, that might not be the right dollar amount, because I know for the other houses that we've been working with, the subsidies have
Oh,
been,
yeah, they've
you know,
been
6
larger.
figures,
They've been
yes,
in the
much
few
larger,
hundred thousand.
much larger, yes. So that may not be the right dollar amount, right? I mean, we have to have discussions, you gotta start somewhere.
I think when Alan proposed
Yes.
this, he was merely doing the, backing
Yeah,
in
Right.
to the number, given the Highland settlement.
Right,
Yep.
exactly, that's what it
All
looked
right,
like, yes. It makes sense.
We can table this. Now, they're gonna,
Okay.
Alan isn't here, and obviously, as we know, he's quite knowledgeable about
Sure.
this. I'm
Right.
knowledgeable, I mean, I've been in
Sure,
it and,
sure.
been supportive of, and they did present, and they're ready to present to us. They have a full, but it's more like, this is what it's gonna look like, this is how many units, this is, traffic and things that the planning board
They got planning board, which I
concerns.
mean,
Yeah, but,
I'm happy with going and seeing that at the planning board.
well, that's already did, I
Okay,
did.
but I'll go look it up online or something, right?
It's attached here. It's in
Okay,
the
so,
documents. You can look at it.
I mean, I-
Yeah.
It's
yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, I believe that, it's the right direction. It is,
Yes.
good possibilities.
Yep.
You're raising valid concerns. I just think that we need to be part of,
The
uh,
conversation,
you know,
yes.
Yep,
the
Absolutely.
process, as opposed to just stepping back and say, well, we're
You
another
figure it
bank.
out,
And I
yes.
know you're not saying
No,
that.
no, I mean,
Right.
it is our intent to support you.
Yes.
In terms of politically, publicity.
Knowledge base,
And
dollars,
financially,
yes.
if needed,
Yep.
yes, yes.
to accomplish some objectives, and the objectives are, and we ought to try and articulate the objectives in a way that they can be communicated.
Right. I think what it sounds like, and this is, but, if we have some at least written proposed motions. There can be alternate motions if we want to make any at this stage, you know, so.
Well, let me ask
we-
this,
we
do you
would-
feel like you need more formal support to continue the discussion? Or are you fine continuing it with the understanding sort of, just per
Well-
our mission and per our prior stances in other houses, that you have the support, you will have it if and as needed?
Well, just as chair, I want to
Right.
say, all right, running a meeting, how we proceed. We have a couple of
Sure.
options.
Mm-hmm.
We can say, let's defer or pass over at this meeting these proposals. Okay? And then we're done, one and done. The other thing is to provide either some other proposal. If anybody wants to so propose a motion, we would then discuss that. We can vote on that. I think those are our two choices.
I think, to Sarah's question though, because my ability to answer or to advise on what of those two things we should do would depend on Sarah's question, the answer to Sarah's question.
I'm sorry, say that again.
Do you feel like you need some sort of formal support to continue discussions? Or are you fine continuing them now and coming back later with something a little more formalized?
It's related to that is like,
Right.
the motion on the table, or the motion that's printed here,
Proposed, yeah, printed.
proposed, is that we give you a number to negotiate with. That it's not binding us to anything, it's just a negotiating tactic. But we're wondering, do you need that number from us, or do you need just our general support and encouragement to continue negotiating? Because you've been negotiating on our behalf without a number
Yes,
on the
we've been-
table.
We've been advising and assisting. Yeah,
I love to,
primarily.
believe you ought to continue doing that.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And they're so happy with, you know, what we're bringing to bear.
But I also, another concern I have is
Sure.
that Westborough has many entities. Has a planning board, a ZBA,
yeah.
a housing trust, who else knows what else? Westborough needs to somehow work with the developer as a unified entity. And we are not the only folks who need
I
to be
know.
part of setting objectives and understanding how the town spends the funds it has available, or how the town uses its influence and power and authority to accomplish some objectives. So I'm really uncomfortable with committing anything more than, hey, let's continue the conversations with the, intending that that with the developer, the community comes up with proposed mechanisms for supporting the project
Okay,
that meet the developer's needs to proceed,
okay.
as opposed to money or particular criteria, other than objectives. And
We could make it the sense of this meeting
right.
that and I hope I'm speaking on behalf of the trust, because this is being recorded,
Right.
and I know Gene and Donna Colangelo, among
They
others,
may
but
be
they're
on.
the developers,
Sure,
often watch our meetings.
Sure,
So
that's great.
I would say what I'm hearing, or what I believe is the case, is that the Housing Trust is very supportive of this concept. We want to continue to support it, both through our expertise, our time, our contacts, whatever it may be, to try to see what can be done to facilitate the development of the 6 additional age-restricted units in order to get to and we've been very straightforward with this, to get to the 100%. And that we will continue to work for, numbers that are, provide, if possible, local preferences of some degree as we negotiate. And maybe that's it. So if we, get that sense that, yes, we want to go through, we still have some questions, we don't feel we can commit a number, but we're willing to commit money if it makes sense.
And we have the financial resources, both in the bank and a continuing stream of funding,
Yes,
guaranteed over the next 5 years probably. So we'd love to work with them.
right.
but we need more meat on the, we
Right.
need to understand more of the details of how we accomplish
Okay.
the objectives.
Yeah, this is a big project,
Yeah.
obviously,
It's a
and
big one,
it,
you know.
this
It's
is
an important one, we wanna do it.
very important.
Uh,
They were, before the VHB did the presentation, because they're the designers, architects, et cetera. And they did it at the Tuesday night select board meeting. I happened to be here for something else, I saw them all again. And the select board has, questions, but they're pretty much punting it, a lot of it to the planning board, because it's really a planning board.
Is this mostly a planning board and a ZB, and is
And
planning board
eventually a
ZBA decision?
ZBA. But they also mentioned, as far as, because Alan, although being away, had sent in a memo, an understanding of what we're trying to do, okay? That more or less framed what's on your, in your packet here, and what we've been discussing. So that the select board realizes, yes, the trust is willing to put, some skin in the game, if you will, and we can, I think our sense, I think we've communicated it, and we'll just keep cranking away,
Yeah.
and,
One clarification I would add to the summary of the sense here, obviously because we're trying to replace some age-restricted units essentially, right? Because with the funding that we
we're
have
trying
available.
to,
Yes,
yeah,
because we're trying to do that, that's one of our priorities. However, we also are willing to consider looking at and supporting other options, especially
Oh,
if
yeah.
that's what it takes to hit the 25%.
Yeah, it doesn't
Yes.
have to be. The only
Right.
thing is what this would do
Yes.
is, since we have this money sitting there,
And it was
we
designed
don't have
for-
any other
Yes.
today, age-restricted projects,
And that would
it's
be
a
our
way to take
preference.
advantage of some of that
Yes.
money.
Yes.
That, the purpose of the whole negotiations for that
Right.
was to support senior housing.
Yes,
So you don't want to ignore
absolutely.
the select board's
Right. But again, the number one
negotiations
goal,
either.
yeah,
So-
We need to clarify whether the money was actually earmarked, legally earmarked for senior housing, and what that means, or whether that was expressed as a preference. And then when we understand that, we can start looking for developers who would be interested in doing those kinds of if the money's earmarked, we gotta go find developers who.
specifically
who
build that
wanna
in.
make
Yeah,
that
oh, yeah,
work,
yeah,
right?
yeah, and they
Because,
just,
under-
my understanding is, and I don't have the formal documents, that it was for senior, and I'll use the word needs, and I may be pushing the point that it may not have been purely restricted to
I
housing.
mean, there were similar words in the Pulte settlement. Actually, because, there were similar, I remember going in town meeting with the Pulte settlement.
Yeah,
Town meeting had to accept the Pulte settlement. And when it was
Right.
presented, and I believe the article that was put forward said, intended for the use of affordable housing and for the needs of seniors.
in the Pulte,
In the Pulte settlement,
Okay.
which means Pulte settlement money could be used to upgrade the Union Street property for a senior center, right? Could be, because it's meeting the senior, again, that's assuming that people said, yeah, that's really under,
Yeah.
well, I'd like, need to understand
Yeah,
what
okay.
kind of earmark is on the money, and then we need to go find people who wanna use, who wanna meet that objective, and try and partner with them.
And that
Right.
may or may not fit into this
It
project.
may,
So we're-
we need.
Right.
If-
So we're supportive of, obviously, senior housing as
Right.
part of this, but we're also looking at other options, whatever it's gonna take to get over that 25% hurdle.
Yeah, you need to know exactly where you're trying to go before you plot a path to get there.
25%. That's it.
no,
That's number
Hank,
one.
I understand, so, what's the feeling, should we, we've made I
Right.
think our statement clear, I haven't heard anybody say, oh no, Ed, you're way
Let's go.
off the mark.
I think that's the right thing to do.
Yes.
Okay.
They'll continue.
All right, so
Yeah.
I move that we pass over
Yep.
for now and take this up again as we gather more information at our next meeting.
Yep.
Okay?
Yeah, and I would say that, with any more information that you have at our next
Yes,
mean,
yeah.
you could have an updated proposal
Right,
potentially.
and what we can do, and, between Jen and Westborough Shopping Center, you know, say, you know, you can come in, because I think we won't have a lot of
Well,
stuff
if they
next
wanna come in and
month.
talk, if they wanna come in and tell us what they're doing, I don't have any objection to that, but,
But we may frame what we want to talk about
Yep.
Right.
more than,
Right,
you know, you don't need to show us all the amenities and
Right.
benefits and things like that.
talk about how we can help.
Numbers.
right. Where the gaps are,
Where-
where we can help fill in,
yeah.
yes.
What do you think our objectives are?
And
What are
Alan and I will coordinate
What are
that.
your objectives? What do you think our objectives are? How do we help you meet your objectives? And how do you help us meet our objectives?
Okay, sounds good. All right, unless there's any other discussion on that, why don't we move forward? I did get a thing, and I don't know, a text from Steve that he was trying to get into the meeting. I don't know, I've tried to start up the meeting, but I couldn't get it
There we
going
go.
for some
So,
reason.
there we go.
Anyhow, given that, and given the next item on the agenda was to go over a budget, I don't feel reviewing a budget, well, a couple of things. There's additional information, monies that I don't know if they're reflected in this. I haven't had a chance to go through it.
Yeah,
What I'd like to do is work on getting an up-to-date as of, you know, end of quarter, because we're just into April, so we just finished the quarter in March. Get a current statement of financial condition produced with our reserves, et cetera. I also want to, you know, with our new administrator for, you know,
Yeah, new town-
Ms.
Town
Walls.
Finance Director.
There's still questions about, you know, that 950,000's been there a year.
yes.
Even if you just put it into T-bills at 5%, it should be $1 million. So we don't have what we, you know, some of the numbers that that should be in our account should be higher, just because investment, because we have serious
Oh,
amount.
absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I want to get that sorted. You know, some of it, you know, with the transition from Leah to John, to Jason, back to Jonathan, you know, I've been trying to give them a little bit of room, since we haven't had a high need to get some of those final numbers. But I'm going to ask that we get, you know, a statement and, you know, a ledger dump for the first quarter of this year, and then make sure that we can have a reasonable statement of financial condition. Review that, so we understand our resources and
Yes.
what we've encumbered, et cetera, as well as the, then be able to use that to help guide us towards our budget discussion.
I agree 100%, because when I saw this as well, in light of the prior discussion, I thought, do we still have that 950? Because it sure looks like we've spent a lot of the dollars on the book
Yeah,
here.
well, this
But
is
these
some
aren't
of the
matched up,
transfers
yes.
and things. And
Yes.
Financial statement would show you what your
Exactly.
balance is.
That's exactly.
Now, it may show source,
yes.
I mean, you can do source, but, you know, in the end, you have
But-
restricted.
Well,
With
this
what
is
you
just a
have-
budget. This
yes.
isn't an actual financial
Statement.
statement. So
yes,
this is just a
exactly.
budget. So,
Yes.
um,
But we have dollars that are not reflected
Yeah.
here.
right, so the
Got it.
budget last
Yes.
year for 2024 was $950,000. So we want to know, yeah, what is,
Well, no, we didn't have a real budget per se last year. I mean, it was, we had reserves, we had money in our fund.
Okay,
I mean, to the tune of a couple million. Now, we've spent some significant amount with, like, you know, between
big
Beach
projects,
Street and the
yes.
subsidy at Lawton's Way. You know, that has drawn some of that down, but we're still have a significant reserve. You know,
Okay.
but I want to get all that out. I
exactly,
think,
yes.
yeah, let's look
for our
at that.
benefit.
Let's look at that.
I mean, this is just an income statement, it's not a balance sheet.
Correct.
This is a budget.
And,
That's what I'm saying. Well, balance sheet financial condition, I use.
well, but the nine, again, in my way of thinking, the 950, as the 950 is now, should now be on the balance sheet.
Correct.
Not on the income, because
I-
that's a fiscal year, not a calendar year.
I agree.
Yes, again.
You know, you do a good job on the AFC, Hank.
Well,
That's an inside joke, because I was the one that that pulled his arm. I held him while other people hit him to join the AFC when I was on. Anyhow, so people, if they feel comfortable that we should defer this
Wait till, we don't need.
until we have financial statement, and then we
Sure.
can review the budget and just to make sense. Because I know it's new to some people, and given also that we only have 4 people.
Right.
I'd rather have a little larger group
To discuss that,
to
yes.
discuss, specific financial decisions affecting that. Just trying to see any other issues. We're ahead of time here, but we're about 10 minutes ahead. Any, but we skipped the budget. Any
I have
other issues or comments?
So Julia O'Neill Welch, who works for Youth and Family Services and is also an elected official for the Westborough Affordable Housing,
No, Westborough Housing,
Housing Authority.
Housing Authority.
So many housing departments. So anyway, she would like to come to a meeting of ours and present. Her role at Youth and Family Services is shifting a bit. She has a new job description, new job title. It is an outreach position now, and so she's going to be kind of shifting how she approaches that role. And so she would like to come and just share with us what it is that she's seeing in the community, what the needs are, especially related to housing. I know yesterday she had 3 calls with evictions. So our emergency rental assistance program, once that hopefully gets approved, then that will be really helpful. So I said I would bring it forth and see what y'all thought.
Sure. Yeah, now this is part of the restructuring, town meeting, they presented how they've been having difficulty, just to put a context on this, if you don't mind, in finding a director for Youth and Family Services since Cara Presley, last name, left a year ago almost, or more?
More than a year ago.
More than a year ago. They have been having a difficult time finding a director, so what they did is they've partnered up with
Shrewsbury Youth and Family Services.
Right.
Which is
So-
a private nonprofit, not actually the town. It's the private nonprofit.
Right, it's a private, to perform some of the clinician work and, counseling work that done. So, we're regionalizing a bit, but we still need somebody, on home turf to do that. So that's the reason for some of this and the change in Julia's position there. And it's also good that she has, a seat on the Housing Authority as well. Hank's been talking to, and Kate's been talking to for the Rogers Road, if you will, projects. So, yeah, what I would, if you can be the go-between, let me know how much time she
Yep.
thinks she would like. We'll try to figure out what else we have on the agenda next month with WSC coming in, and how much time we think that might take for some discussions and anything, and then, the budget, et cetera. So if it's not next month, it may be the following month, but we'll get her in the queue to come in.
Great.
Any other? I think
Kate
that's
and I
probably-
are going to the Westborough Housing Authority board meeting. I think it's April 28th.
Okay.
No, the 23rd, because
April
you were going to be
23rd.
gone the 30th.
Yeah, April 23rd, okay. So April 23rd, we're going. Let me make sure I've got it at the right time.
Well, I don't think, have you heard back from
Why don't
Kathy?
you guys coordinate that?
No,
You're going there
we are going.
sometime
We're
this month.
going in sometime in the near future.
Yeah, no, it is
Yes.
April 23rd. I apologize, I
Okay.
read the wrong date. And if folks have any input on what we ought to discuss with them at that time, I'd be interested in hearing the input.
Is there a plan to do some sort of formal presentation, like here are the projects in the works, here are the ones that we're looking at, or is
Well,
it more informal?
There's a specific project that we,
Oh, so this is, it's
proposed.
discuss that project,
Well,
the Rogers.
we've been having discussion with
Yeah.
them for a year and a
here
half.
now,
Mhm.
Well
Over
over,
a year.
well over a year.
Right.
They have a desire to, and we're willing to help them develop additional housing on the property that they own on Rogers Road.
Okay, yes.
And
So primarily,
we've not been able to get past a feasibility, a technical feasibility study was done, which, what it does is it identified, what the engineering concerns might be. It didn't deal with funding or need or any of that stuff, but that's been done, and we have at least a preliminary
Some,
idea
yeah.
of what, that we have preliminary information that says, yeah, it's feasible to build some amount of housing on that property. There's a number of steps you have to go through to permit it. You gotta
Sure.
go to every board in the world and get permission, but, and now, we're trying to move to the next step, which is, what do you guys really wanna do? And we're not, my take is we're not gaining any traction.
Right.
Kate,
What-
do you feel we're gaining any traction?
I think it is a process of relationship building, which is a slow process.
Mhm.
And, but there has been some, I think there was a lot of interest last time. It's just that they have a different way of moving, as a committee. They have a lot of, checks to write and sign and business to attend to every meeting. And so I think that is the first and foremost at the front of their mind. So, so we just need to get back in front of them. And that's what the point in April is. So.
it seems to be very, from what I have gathered, oftentimes more of an operational meeting that they go through than a planning.
Or vision,
if you will,
strategy setting,
Project
yeah.
focused. Is that a fair statement?
You bet.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
But
I think they have
that up a little bit.
I do think they have a genuine desire.
Oh,
Yes.
absolutely. They
and
are
so-
limited with resources.
Right.
Yeah.
You mean
Very,
both
very few resources. yes.
funding, definitely funding, and also just, bandwidth in, because it's a part-time position for the director there, so, they just want to make sure the lights are kept on and snow's plowed and maintenance is done and things like that, and that takes up a significant amount of
Yeah.
time. So, be that as it may, any other items people would like to mention? Okay, good. I'm going to put in a plug, I beg your indulgence, but on Tuesday I appeared before the select board, and myself, Maureen Ambiat, and we made a very quick presentation and requested, and it was approved to make April Donate Life Month. That is to support organ donation awareness in Westborough. So that's another hat I wear, but that's a separate thing. But I'm as chair, I'm taking a little bit of indulgence there. So just reminding people of that. Okay, hearing no other issues, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor? Okay, so we had 4-4 for adjournment. 4-0 for adjournment. Okay. TV.